Good evening. For the last few hours, there have been repeated violations of the understanding arrived at earlier this evening between the Directors General of Military Operations of India and Pakistan. This is a breach of the understanding arrived at earlier today. The armed forces are giving an adequate and appropriate response to these violations, and we take very, very serious notice of these violations. We call upon Pakistan to take appropriate steps to address these violations and deal with the situation with seriousness and responsibility. The armed forces are maintaining a strong vigil on the situation. They have been given instructions to deal strongly with any instances of a repetition of the violations of the borders along the international border as well as the line of control. Thank you.
Okay, that was the Foreign Secretary not taking any questions, but more importantly, viewers, this is now official. The ceasefire that was announced hasn't even lasted half a day. It was announced at 6:30, 7 o'clock, Swati, and it's 11. And by 8:40, we had reports coming in that Pakistan has violated the ceasefire.
It actually came into effect from 5 p.m. So 3 hours 45 minutes. That's all Pakistan could hold itself before it violated the ceasefire. Army has been given a free hand to retaliate. That's what the Foreign Secretary just said. India has condemned this ceasefire violation. We are maintaining a strong vigil, but Pakistan back to old ways.
Let's quickly listen to the briefing once again. This is the official confirmation of the ceasefire collapsing.
For the last few hours, there have been repeated violations of the understanding arrived at earlier this evening between the Directors General of Military Operations of India and Pakistan. This is a breach of the understanding arrived at earlier today. The armed forces are giving an adequate and appropriate response to these violations, and we take very, very serious notice of these violations. We call upon Pakistan to take appropriate steps to address these violations and deal with the situation with seriousness and responsibility. The armed forces are maintaining a strong vigil on the situation. They have been given instructions to deal strongly with any instances of a repetition of the violations of the borders along the international border as well as the line of control. Thank you.
Deplorable, despicable act, Swati, by Pakistan. Once again, our guests are joining us. Lieutenant General Raj Shukla is with us. So is our reporter Pradeep Datta. Pradeep, I am not one bit surprised by what has happened.
Yes, Paresh, you're absolutely right. In fact, nobody is surprised. That's one of the reasons that we often seen that there's a trust deficit between India and Pakistan, because when India has tried to extend hand of friendship, we have seen that Pakistan in the past have always backstabbed India. And this time they have not been able to keep their own words. Within 2 hours, they have violated ceasefire. They opened mouths of their guns along the international border as well as line of control. Not only that, we again saw that there was an aerial intrusion from their side. About hundreds of drones were sent towards India to target army installation as well as other infrastructure. But India has been able to thwart their attempt. And right now, very strong message coming from the Indian side that our troops are vigilant. The message has been sent to the commanders on the ground that give them a befitting response, and they have asked Pakistan to take this really very seriously, because this is something which they are admitted to during the DGMO level talk. Because reason being that, see, Pranesh, you have to understand, when Modi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi asserted, "Mitti mein mila dunga," that word was enough to send shivers down spine of Pakistan. And when today he said that any kind of terror-related activity will be seen as an act of war, and finally we saw that Pakistan was on knees, they knew that here is a man who is definitely going to translate his words into action, and already they have seen the consequences.
You know, Pakistanis had a chance, not anymore, which is why we are saying do not spare Pakistan this time. enough is enough is enough. General Shukla, how much is too much when it comes to dealing with Pakistan?
I'll reiterate, please listen to me carefully. You see, even in a division, once ceasefire orders are received, it takes time for that to get implemented, for things to quieten down. So what the Foreign Secretary is telling you, that ceasefire violations have taken place, they are being responded to. So it's not that we are not responding to it. It's not that we are not firing and he is. That's the first point. We are responding to it. Having said that, give him some more time, and if it doesn't, who's the stronger player? We or he? We know we will be able to respond. We will do it. So I don't read too much into this.
Okay.
I do feel that it will quieten down in a while, and if it doesn't quieten down, we are there to respond.
Okay, now let me
So
break
I would,
some. General Shukla, let me break this to you. Now, this may be, something ordinary for you. But here's more, sir, perhaps that is alarming. Tell me what you think of this. In Nagrota, the news is coming in that at least 2 terrorists dressed in army fatigues, they attacked an army camp. One of our soldiers has sustained injuries on shoulder. Army has now confirmed this terror attack on the army camp. What do you make of this?
So, when do you think this infiltration would have taken place, if you are saying that it has taken place? After the ceasefire or before the ceasefire? So it takes time for these things to, in such a massive escalation, one small infiltration doesn't matter too much. Please understand this. And we retain the strength. That's the point I'm making to you time and again. If they do not hold the ceasefire, we will respond with 4 times the punch. So that's what I'm saying. I don't saying take them at face value. I'm saying verify it. And commanders on the ground know it. They don't need orders for every 2 hours.
Pakistan that violates ceasefire, we end up giving more time to Pakistan. Times Now's news break. This is what we reported, that an army Jawan has been injured. He was hit in the shoulder by a terrorist, and that's had been confirmed by the army. So one soldier injured, no fatality reported. This has been confirmed by the army. Captain Alok Bansal, do you agree that it will take some time for situation to go back to perhaps normal, or for Pakistan to follow ceasefire agreement and understanding?
See, in your 8 p.m. program, I had said that I have serious questions about the ceasefire and the way it has been negotiated. Having said that, there is no doubt that ceasefire implementation takes time. And this I had also mentioned that time, that cross-border firing continues. But what is problematic is that there have been blasts in Srinagar after the ceasefire. There have been drone attacks in Jammu. And these are credible inputs. I have credible inputs that there were drone attacks in Jammu. And now, of course, you have a Fedayeen attack in Nagrota, which is quite feasible that they had infiltrated earlier. And probably they were incommunicado, or they didn't have communications with their handlers back home that, well, the operation has been called back. But the fact is that there have been attacks across the border. There have been reports of attacks in Bikaner. So this seriously raises questions whether Pakistan intends to have a ceasefire, or alternately, which is also a feasibility, that considering the way their army has been indoctrinated, despite the orders having been passed, there are junior commanders who are unwilling to follow and want to continue with this sort of a conflict. So both these possibilities are there. But at this point of time, to say that there is a ceasefire, I think to my mind would be grossly wrong. And I think Indian Army must be giving them a befitting reply to what they are doing.
That the government has clarified that the army, the forces are responding to it. But Abhijit, how should this situation be read? I mean, look at the turn of events over the last few hours.
Look, remember I told your colleague on this channel almost 3-4 hours back that I fully expected the war to resume in a few months, if not weeks. I didn't expect it to be a few hours because, I expect at least some level of intelligence and respect for their own integrity that Pakistan officials have. Sadly, apparently, I was quite mistaken on that. It's not the first time I've been mistaken, but well, it is what it is. Now, if you remember, Pranesh, on your very program, we've been discussing ever since Pahalgam. I told you a lot of corps commanders have been very, very upset with Asim Munir's handling of the situation. They've been upset that he ordered the attack without consulting them and things like that. There are a lot of people out there who are out to get him. I wouldn't be surprised if this is some corps commander who's ordered this, because the Pakistan military is quite disciplined. You can't launch an across the border attack like this on Udhampur, on Srinagar, and different places like that without several local commanders coordinating. And therefore, it had to have come from the top. So there is a high possibility that this is some internal tension within the military itself. The second issue here is there is some very clear messaging coming out of Pakistan that they probably intended this. Within minutes of the drone incursions, Pakistani TV channels were carrying, we will be in Delhi next week or something like that. Again, you can't just come up with headlines in minutes like that. They were clearly thinking about it and put it out. The third thing in all of this that we need to watch out is that how is Asim Munir now going to react? How is this whole situation going to play out? I don't know, but I know what the Indian response is going to be. We've called out their treachery. But if you think that this is going to go without a response, I think we're very sadly mistaken. Whoever thinks that this isn't going to elicit a response is sadly mistaken. In a sense, I was fine even with the ceasefire for the reasons I explained. I thought our terms were quite good.
Right.
I'm also quite okay with this war continuing.
No, but Abhijit, when you say that, we will respond, how will we respond? In appropriate, adequate, proportional measure? Will that be the response?
Look, I think our game right now for the last few days has been very clear. We never used our high-end systems. We didn't use the Rafales. We didn't use the Spiders. We didn't use the S-400 and things like that. The press briefer very clearly said S-400s were not used. We are saving that up. We are going to do low-level, high-intensity warfare like we've seen for the last 2-3 days. The point is to tire them out. To exhaust them, to exhaust their economy, to exhaust their supplies, to exhaust their stocks, to exhaust everything over the next month, 2 months even if required, to attrit them completely and then go in for some more major action. That is my guess on all of this. And I presume tomorrow you will hear Wing Commander Vyomika Singh, Colonel Sophia Qureshi and Foreign Secretary Misri saying that it was proportionate, it was non-escalatory. These are the jargons we use, you see. We will probably bomb ISI headquarters and claim it was non-escalatory and proportionate. And
no, but as long as we bomb ISI headquarters and say those things, we should be okay.
Look, we may not even bomb those headquarters. I think the thing is we shouldn't be micromanaging. Wars aren't fought to public sentiment. Wars have to be fought to strategic objectives. So I realize everybody's very upset. We probably want, to string up Asim Munir in public, put him on a donkey, have his face painted black like they used to do in medieval Europe, and probably a lot worse. But that's not how the military works. They will take their own calculated call. I've heard it from very good sources. We are in the game. We are not letting this go.
All right, let me also bring in Air Marshal Rajiv Sachdeva. In this day and age of social media and the technology that we are surrounded by, Donald Trump tweets, then the Pakistani Prime Minister thanks the entire US establishment saying thank you for intervening, thank you for this ceasefire. And then are we to believe that this will take some time because perhaps the orders have not reached the soldiers on ground, or this is dissent? What is it?
See, the orders, we can't say the orders have not reached the thing, because once the DGMOs have spoken, that means the military has come on to a pause. And what I was thinking was that India's, with the terms and conditions with the Indian DGMO came forward,
and what was announced in the evening by the Foreign Secretary, that we press the pause button, and if you do anything wrong anytime later in the months to come, we will refreeze the pause button there itself and start the play from there itself instead of going back to talks. But surprisingly, how, this particular thought that the message has not reached the soldiers, I don't think that is possible. And whether to launch an attack, the message goes from top. And whether to stop the attack, again, the message goes from top. I don't understand how we are thinking that it has happened without the orders from the top.
There are reports of drones also coming in now. Abhijit, can this be a case of, Pakistani drones straying inside Indian territory?
Look, drones are very precise things. They don't stray. This isn't artillery shell trajectory or unguided artillery rocket trajectories. Intentionally on purpose. Accident ho jata hai, nahi. They're very
all right, Abhijit, I'm sorry to interrupt because Priyank is joining us on the broadcast and he has something latest to share with us. Over to you, Priyank.
Certainly, Swati, there is what we have to tell you here is that the drone storm of drones which were moving towards Srinagar has been stopped, and right now the electricity supply has been restored. But the discrepancies in the official statement regarding the Nagrota attack is still continuing. On one side, when our crew was trying to move towards the base, it was stopped from a far distance. In fact, our crew was also told to move back to a safer location. So this is what we can tell you to our viewers while we have been discussing, that the coordinate search operation is still continuing, but the official statement is changing time and again.
And why is that changing? What explains this, Captain Bansal? Is it because, things are, it's an evolving situation, or we don't know what to make of this?
In fact, I'm really sorry to say, but it's very difficult to make out what's been happening since afternoon. There have been so many U-turns, so many changes. I was on DD just last 1 hour, and DD for 1 hour was trying to tell us that there has been no ceasefire violation, there have been no blasts in Srinagar, and it is at the end that the FS comes and does a press conference and tells us that no, there have been new violations. So I really don't know what's happening, because I have credible information from Jammu that there are drones which have actually attacked the camp. There are reports of attacks, Fedayeen attacks or something in Nagrota. There are reports of attacks in Bikaner, Srinagar. The Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir tweets that what ceasefire is this? There are attacks here. Which ceasefire is holding? So I really don't know what's happening. What are the compulsions on different sides that we are trying to churn out?
You're right. I understand that, in fact, which is why I asked you, what should one make of this? Is this, lack of information, or, we are not being able to make up our mind how to project this, which is why I asked Abhijit, what is this, a case of drones straying into our territory, because, nothing is clear, Abhijit.
Look, we have to walk back Nagrota right now. ANI has also deleted its tweet. I got told not to say anything about Nagrota as well because we hadn't had ground confirmation. So I'm not sure what's happened at Nagrota right now. The only thing we have actual confirmation of is the drones, and that too, it has been concentrated in on the Kashmir border, not in Punjab, not in Rajasthan. Even though there are blackouts that have been imposed all across Punjab and Rajasthan right now. Now, what they're thinking, I really don't know. Sometimes I don't even know if Pakistanis think. They have a fairly sophisticated mind when it comes to crookery. But when it comes to international politics, I don't know where their crooked intelligence goes. I'm sorry, Pranish. I really don't know what to say why they do this. I've never seen such a self-defeating move in my life. What do you think the American reaction is going to be? I'm talking to my American friends right now, and everybody in DC is telling me that they're furious. What the hell happened out here? They don't understand what happened. They're feeling betrayed. They think they've been made to look like fools. They're not going to be very kind to the Pakistanis right now. When the Pakistanis reach out again for a ceasefire, what do you think the American response is going to be?
Well, I don't know. I have, frankly, no faith in America because America has been, doing this flip-flop. So I don't know. Like you said, you can't make up your mind. I don't know what to make of Donald Trump or the American policy vis-a-vis Pakistan, China, etc., etc. They all have their own selfish interests. We have to, guard our own territory, guard our own people. Enough is enough. From this ceasefire violation now, even now, if we don't learn our lessons, we are all sitting ducks, and our people then, deserve the pounding that we get from the Pakistanis. General Shukla wanted to come in. Yes, sir.
Saying, see, this is exactly, please understand the Pakistan army. They are strategically obtuse, people of less wisdom. So this is the stuff. See, along the LC, they can be effective fire and they can be non-effective fire. Now, these drones, they are what? 1 kg, half a kg. Have they caused any loss of life? They are just having fun. Now they have fun because they are indisciplined. They are strategically obtuse. And if they are having fun and it is effective, it will be punished. So you have a professional military there. Please believe them. It will not go unpunished.
But nobody's
That's
doubting
the point I'm making. This is the stuff they do. They do all the while. When there is a ceasefire violation, I've commanded a division there. It will quieten down over 5-6 days. But it does quieten down. And if it doesn't, wherever it doesn't, you please believe you don't need orders from Delhi. That post commander will respond. That company commander will respond. That battalion commander will respond. So that is the point. And if they have willfully violated it, then as Abhijit says, they are the foolish ones.
Okay, and
They
as
are
we
going to
speak,
lose the trust
we
of
are
the
also getting
Americans.
some breaking
So
inputs, gentlemen. We are
that's
given
the
to
point I'm
understand that NSA Ajit Doval has spoken to Chinese Minister Wang Yi, and NSA Ajit Doval has made it absolutely clear to China that war is not India's choice. The China minister spoke to NSA Ajit Doval, in which our message was clear that it is not our choice. War is not what India is looking at.
Okay, who do we have? Rishabh, Pradeep. All right. Pradeep, Abhijit, just a short while ago, the Chinese FM spoke to the Pakistanis. He said China stands firmly with Pakistan. Now you have this update coming in. India obviously underlining its stand that Pahalgam, needed to be punished, which is why we punished Pakistan, emphasizing that war is not India's choice and does not serve the interest of any party. All that is fine. But how do you see this messaging from China now?
Look, China is doing what China always does. China doesn't have friends. They, they just use and dump policy. We've spoken on length on this channel, in fact, on your program, on their exploitative policies in Africa, on CPEC, on Belt and Road, all of that. Now, China is basically trying to reach out. They don't realize or understand what has happened, or maybe they do and they're trying to fool everybody. I certainly don't trust the Chinese. I have never trusted the Chinese. I never will. But that said, we need to remember China does not like to take on other countries' liabilities. They try to help some of their free radicals. They don't believe in allies, they believe in free radicals. They give them nukes every now and then, they give them cash every now and then. And the job of the free radical is to stand up by themselves, without Chinese help, and destabilize the region. To an extent, Russia has become a Chinese free radical in Europe. North Korea was the OG free radical in East Asia. Pakistan is the free radical in South Asia. Laos, to a much smaller extent, is a different kind of free radical, not a non-violent free radical in Southeast Asia. I think Doval has made it very clear when he says war is not, we haven't chosen war.
Yes.
He's not ruling out war. He's saying war has been imposed on us. We didn't make it.
That's very important. So we have not chosen war, but it is being imposed on us. Pradeep Datta is with us on the broadcast. After expressing full support for Pakistan, the Chinese minister spoke to NSA Ajit Doval, in which we've made it clear that we had to act after Pahalgam, after what was done in Pahalgam, but we're not choosing war. Okay, I believe, yes, we have lost Pradeep Datta.
Let's bring in Gurinder Singh Dhillon. Sir, good evening. You've been with us over the last few days.
Everybody.
What do you make of what has happened in the last few hours?
So I'll just say that when this DGMO talk and it came out that there is a stopping of firing and military action. So when I looked at 3 tweets, if you read the Rubio's tweet, there is one para which is not available in other tweets that says that both the parties have agreed that they will be talking to each other at some neutral venue. Now, this is totally a different this thing. Second thing is, when this announcement happened, it started from the tweet of the president of the US, not from our side. And I was at one of the channels. I said, till MEA comes say something, I am not going to believe it. But of course, within 2 minutes, there was a statement that there is a stopping of firing and military action. Now, the ceasefire, stopping of action, all these things may be there. But as we were confused in the daytime, after the ceasefire violation, what I'm seeing that we, all the panelists sitting are confused as to what is happening. There was attack, there was not attack. Then there was a call, foreign minister of China say something. Then we talking to our NSA and their some counterpart talking. And then there is different message. Now we are trying to say, there was some saying that, okay, these drones strayed. I don't think all this thing what is coming out is right or wrong, but it has created confusion in our minds. And everybody whom I have talked to as in general public,
right,
they are also equally.
But one thing made clear by the foreign secretary that there was a ceasefire violation, that our forces are retaliating. Pradeep Datta is with us on the broadcast. NSA not ruling out anything, but also at the same time saying we're not choosing war.
Yes, you are absolutely right. In fact, a short while back during the press briefing, it has been conveyed that message has been sent to the commanders on the ground, because one thing the government has admitted, yes, there had been ceasefire violation, there has been aerial intrusion also, and that attempt has also been thwarted, and also the security forces are being given a free hand. Commanders on the ground have been conveyed that you give them a befitting response because they will ensure safety, security and integrity of the country. There will be no compromise on that, and the troops will continue to remain vigilant. And they've asked Pakistan to take it seriously because they want, because the DGMO level talks are going to be held on 12th of May. That means still there is a time. They want them, they should ensure that there is a ceasefire, because Pakistan has once again failed to keep its words. They failed to keep the agreement, and they thought that maybe after announcing ceasefire, there's hostilities from both the sides will end. But what we have seen on the other side is that all of a sudden, after 2 hours, they opened mouths of their guns, started targeting a line of control area as well as on international border. There was a firing in Sundarbani, Naushera sector, Aknur sector, Palawala sector, and also along the international border too. So that's one of the reasons that the commanders have been told that they should give them a befitting response. That is what actually is required at this stage. But yes, it's a matter of concern, but not surprising, because this is not first time when Pakistan has violated ceasefire or gone back on their words.
Let me bring in Captain Bansal. Captain Bansal, you know, just moments after the ceasefire announcement, declaration, what have you, there were many people, you know, we have one ecosystem that was saying de-escalate, de-escalate. They were celebrating. What would they do now?
See, on your channel itself, I said, I am not a warmonger. I would like peace, but the way it was ushered in raised a lot of questions and a lot of comments. And I think that question comes even now. I think the Chinese NSA spoke to our NSA, and for the first time, I think they were unequivocal in their criticism of Pahalgam. Now, I don't know what has happened, and again, we are seeing this thing. And as I said, we need to continue this sort of a conflict, which degrades Pakistan's capabilities as the time goes by. And we need to continue this sort of a conflict, because Pakistan's DNA doesn't give us certain reassurance. I really don't know what General Asim Munir is up to, because he is not somebody like Bajwa, who I could have understood very easily. But at this juncture, it's very, very difficult to understand what Pakistan is trying. But one thing is very clear. This ceasefire has been violated. Now, whether it is with the concurrence of Munir or it is without his concurrence and the junior commanders are doing it autonomously, because we must understand that in situations like this, it is the man on ground who actually decides.
You're absolutely right. We should have no doubts that the ceasefire violation has happened. Abhijit, you know, the other thing which is clear from what has been happening over the last 40 minutes is that someone has given a tight slap to both Donald Trump and Rubio.
Yes.
Who that person is, that's for you to tell us.
Well, I wish I knew. You know, there are some theories suggesting that Munir did this himself. Marco Rubio and Shehbaz Sharif had decided this over their head. I don't give that theory any credence. Do you really think a Pakistan Prime Minister would decide on a ceasefire without permission from the army chief? I mean, we all know who runs that country, right? It's certainly not the civilian administration. For me, the only real thing out here is corps commanders. Even the sort of rogue local commander doesn't make sense just because of the scale of the attack. This is a huge attack across several sectors. I mean, if you look at Udhampur on a map and Srinagar on a map, it would have taken some very senior commander to call this level of drones across such a wide spectrum of attack. So I'm sticking with the, corps commander upset theory. But the problem here is, you know, this agreement where water was delinked from the ceasefire, which is to say water was delinked from war, and that there was an acceptance that an act of terror equals an act of war. It couldn't have been good for Asim Munir's career. You remember in 65, Ayub Khan declared a great victory. But everybody in Pakistan knew it wasn't a victory after Tashkent, and when he was forced to sign a fairly humiliating agreement. And he was forced out of power in a few months after that. So Asim Munir was probably facing the same situation, and I wouldn't put it past him also to have also ordered this attack to buttress his credentials. Or, I mean, I don't think he has credentials, but he thinks he has
Whatever is left.
Yeah.
Okay. Air Marshal Sachdeva has been wanting to say something. Yes, sir.
I think you were mentioning about the drones loitering around. Just remember, the drones have a life of about 30 minutes, 50 minutes. Loitering munitions will have a life of about 10 hours. So 30, 50 minutes drones which have been fired now, that means they fired after the ceasefire was announced. It is not that they were loitering around and they've come inside. So somebody has actually taken the action to let them go in.
Absolutely.
And our action as the Air Force will be first to defend. Whatever is coming in, to take it down and to have minimal impact on us. With a 4.5 kg drone, we're not going to destroy anything the way we have done towards their terror sites. So they haven't used those kind of things as of now.
So as of now, the situation remains the same, isn't it? Back to square one, don't take anything that Pakistan says or agrees to or commits to at face value. We also have some breaking inputs coming in, and we're given to understand that Union Home Secretary Govind Mohan is holding a video conference with Chief Secretaries of States having borders with Pakistan, and is also assessing the situation. Perhaps Pradeep can add more to it. Yes, Pradeep.
Yes, because the situation so far continues to remain tense. People thought that maybe they will get some kind of a relief from the drones, because the moment ceasefire was announced from the Pakistan side as well as from Indian side. But Pakistan has not kept its promise. That's one of the reasons that once again there is a loitering munition, and we can see the drones also being unleashed from across the border. There are chances that these drones might hit the civilian infrastructure, because so far they haven't succeeded in targeting any of our air bases or military installation. So because most of the drones had already been neutralized by the air defense system and those L-70 guns that are available to the Indian Armed Forces. So by holding this video conferencing, the government, Chauhan, the Home Secretary, what he is trying to do is that he is trying to tell the Chief Secretary kind of the measure that they have to take in. And already we have seen that they want the civil defense training and everything should continue, because they do not want any kind of a break on that. And yes, the priority of the government is because earlier also when there was a meeting with the Prime Minister also at Prime Minister's residence, the life of the civilians are to be saved at any cost. They wanted that they should try to ensure that there is no civilian casualty. So all sorts of measures are to be taken in this regard. But ever since we have seen that Operation Sindoor has been conducted by Indian Armed Forces, we have seen that what Pakistan is trying to do, the first thing they did was open mouth of their artillery. They started targeting civilian areas. The very first day we saw the 16 people lost their lives. They did not spare even the temple. They did not spare Gurdwara Sahib. They did not spare the church also, because they were trying to widen the fault line, because they know the situation on the other side of the border, because there's already a civil unrest. People are coming out on streets. They are protesting against Pakistan Army. Never ever had happened this thing during the last 7 decades, because people so openly coming and speaking out against any of the army general or armed forces in Pakistan, because Pakistan army always dominated scene. So rightly said by Alok Bansal also, because that his credibility was lost. He was trying to stick to the chair, so he thought that maybe with the Kashmir obsession and the India obsession, if we'll just launch any kind of an attack, this will help me to keep the flock together. But people in even in the armed forces, they seem to be completely divided, because if we talk about Pakistan armed forces, there are a section of generals who are with Asim Munir, then there are people who feel who are with the PTI, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party of Imran Khan, because they feel if Imran Khan is in jail, it's because of him, and the puppet government is there because of Asim Munir, because he wanted to have a puppet prime minister there. And then there are people who are with the Islam element. So there are different voices within the within the Pakistan army. So he was trying to keep flock together. That's why you must have heard that just 3-4 days back, while he was addressing soldiers, he was not talking like a general. He was reciting Quranic verses, because he feels that way only he can keep them together.
In fact, the defense minister, Captain Alok Bansal, was no different when in the National Assembly he said the second line of defense are going to be the madrasa students. Are we to then just at the moment call it a volatile, evolving situation and respond as per the need of the hour?
See, I have no doubts that General Munir and his defense minister both have a radical bent of mind. In fact, PML and Baila organizations. In fact, Sharifs have had very good relationship with Ahle Sunnat wal Jamaat, which used to be called as Sipahe Sahiba Pakistan. So they do have a fundamentalist streak, and many people in their party and the government are rabid fundamentalists, in fact, extreme radical. Unfortunately for Pakistan today, their chief is also like that. He is also another rabid Islamist. Unlike his predecessor, General Bajwa, whatever may have been his fault, was not a rabid Islamist like this chap is. And as a result, with these people with that rabid Islamist ideology, peace is very far off from them. So I don't know how did he agree for a ceasefire. There must have been some military compulsions, but obviously his ideology, his thinking does not allow him to pursue the peace for any longer. And consequently, we are seeing that despite assuring Americans, because on whose good wishes their survival depends, because even though second tranche of EFF and one tranche of drawing rights have been assured, and they are expecting to get $2.3 billion, US can still withhold it or stall it on some grounds, and that could create problems for them. But despite that, I think they are going ahead and continuing with this sort of violence, a brazen violation of ceasefire agreement which they had accepted just a few hours ago.
Okay, but Abhijit, I want to ask the larger question. Now, we were saying that, look, the pounding that the Pakistanis got was less than enough, should have been less than enough. But even after, what we've seen in the last 1 hour, if they're doing this, what have they, taken away from our strikes, our retaliation?
Pranesh, this is a country that, came up with this nonsensical concept of strategic depth to conquer Afghanistan. They came up with, this Hamid Gul famous statement to Benazir Bhutto, terrorists, madam, I am adding 2 divisions to the Pakistan army at no cost to the taxpayer. Look what all those lunatics did to their own country. They supported the Afghan jihad for strategic. They call it, all those Punjabi prime ministers of theirs go and say the supreme national interest and nonsense like that. और फिर supreme national interest का क्या होता है? You have turned your country into a hellhole where your ordinary citizens keep getting shot and killed every day. Then they took those same Afghan jihadis and put them in Kashmir. Look where that ended up. You have turned into I hate to call it an emporium, because it's more like a menagerie of rabid dogs. Now a country which claims to be the biggest victim of terror for the last 30 years, did they learn their lesson? An army school, remember the army school where they went and killed 200-300 army kids? They didn't learn from that. You know why? Because the army and the industrialists and things, they don't look at Pakistan as their home. They may be very nationalistic, but they live in Dubai at Palm Jumeirah. You know, our generals, poor chaps, we have to send them every time we do a track 2. We have to send them, taxis to the airport for collection in Dubai or Bangkok. But in Dubai, all the Pakistani generals who come, they've got, residences out there, Maybachs, Rolls Royce, even some of them. Our poor generals, even chiefs of army staff, buy 1,800 square foot apartments in Noida because वो South Delhi में afford नहीं कर पाते हैं. This is the kind of army you're talking about. Now, they haven't learned their lesson in the last 30 years, Pranish. Do you think they're going to learn their lesson now?
Okay. Then we must, teach them one. Or revise the syllabus, do something about it.
सिखाया नहीं जा सकता है. इनको सिखाया नहीं जा सकता है. The problem is when you keep, how brutal they are in the madrasas. Now you've seen all those madrasa videos where the kids are thrashed, living daylights out. क्या होता है ना कि जब बार-बार बच्चे को मारते हो ना, the child also gets inured to getting beaten up. So they play थप्पड़ कबड्डी.
तो इतने बदमाश बच्चे के साथ फिर क्या करें? मारना भी छोड़ दें?
देखो अब थप्पड़ काम नहीं कर रहा है तो शायद इलेक्ट्रिक शॉक देना पड़ेगा बहुत.
ठीक है. अब we have some breaking inputs coming in and Captain Bansal, look, this is the latest post by the White Knight Corps, which is the 16th Corps that has its headquarters in Nagrota. It says, on noticing suspicious movement near the perimeter, the alert sentry at Nagrota military station issued a challenge leading to a brief exchange of fire with the suspect. Sentry sustained a minor injury. Search operations are underway to track the intruder or intruders. This is almost like a court judgment, so convoluted it is.
It is not convoluted. This is probably the truth. They probably challenged him, attacked him, and they probably disappeared. So they're trying to figure out. I think it will take time because in night and in jungles or the thickly forested area which is around Nagrota camp, it could take them some time before they could find them. It will probably be clear only by the daybreak that have they succeeded in going inside or they are still outside, what is the situation, where they are, because the quick reaction team would be looking into it. Nagrota camp is a huge camp, so it will take time if they have actually hidden themselves, if they've gone inside and hidden themselves. It will take a long time. We'll probably get an idea by morning or that time. But the fact is that there are people who are trying to infiltrate, there are terrorists who are trying to carry this out. I'm not very sure whether these terrorists, as General Raj Shukla said, have infiltrated before the ceasefire or after the ceasefire. They could also belong to those elements who are not happy in Pakistan with the ceasefire and want to undermine the government's authority. That is also feasible.
That's one other challenge.
All these
right?
factors are feasible. But when it comes to drones
them.
that are attacking Jammu, they cannot be by any non-state actors. They are obviously being sent by Pakistani army troops or their junior commanders, either with the connivance of Asim Munir or in contravention to his directives. That we'll probably come to know in due course of time.
But I think the only option we have at the moment is to stay alert and vigilant, because we've hit terror dens, we've hit those institutions that were training these terrorists, Air Vice Marshal Sachdeva, and we have to be extremely vigilant. Yes, there's a ceasefire which Pakistan has violated. Now we've gone back to saying that things pretty much look calm at the moment because there was no blast is what the army said, and right now there is no firing taking place. So we have to only stay alert and vigilant is the only option we have.
There are two things in this. One is the defense of your own. Once they are sending the projectiles inside, you're supposed to defend them. That is what happened on day 2. Once we took down their terrorist camp, after that when they came inside, so our immediate aim was to defend ourselves. Thereafter we've gone and given them a punishment. Our punishment was a very calculated affair on the first day to take down the air defense of this. Yes, as per the briefing which came from the MEA briefing, that 4 air defense radars were being targeted and 1 at Lahore was neutralized. Then they did something else again. Again, we went in and took on their runways. That's the next thing which the Air Force wants to do. Now, today they have done it again. I was thinking that the business incomplete as of yesterday when the ceasefire was announced. Business incomplete. We still haven't done what we wanted to do. I think they've given us that opportunity to continue with our business because the pause button has been released and the play button has been pressed. So let's see what we do tomorrow. But actually, there was a business not complete. All of us were a little taken aback when the ceasefire was announced. So they have broken it. Now they'll again get a punitive punishment from us tomorrow. Let's see what the leadership of this of the Indian top decides.
Let's just hope that the punitive punishment we are talking about lasts more than the ceasefire. You know, on that note, let's take a break and come back to this. Viewers, please stay with Times Now. Welcome back, viewers. The latest is that the Pakistanis have shown their true color. We are not one bit surprised, and the Pakistani misinformation minister, Tarar, is saying that there has been no ceasefire violation. I mean, whether it is news, no news, I don't know, but I'm only reading the updates that I can see. Abhijit, as we speak, there are reports of explosions being heard in Jaisalmer.
Oh, I haven't heard this, but I'm not surprised because like I said, I expected this to have been coordinated at the highest level. Now, you know, even if you assume that Udhampur and Srinagar are just a few hundred kilometers away, Jaisalmer is almost 1,000 kilometers away. This is right up at the corps commander level, Pranesh. The decision to violate the ceasefire is systematic. It has come from the top if the Jaisalmer reports are correct. I'm going to check the Jaisalmer reports, but I see no reason to disbelieve it either.
Okay, let me also bring in Mr. Dhillon. Mr. Dhillon, what can we say about the situation at the moment?
So, yes, I agree totally with my dear panelist that it is not possible for at the local commander level that starting from Jammu Kashmir and up to Kutch and Jaisalmer without corps commander, it is not possible. Secondly, corps commander will not act without Munir coming into picture. Second point is what we were discussing, that Nawaz Sharif family is fundamentalist. Now Munir is fundamentalist. The corps commanders are fundamentalist, radical elements. We have to come out with a philosophy or a strategy how to deal with these fundamental elements. But what has happened in last 3 days, it is appearing, and now today's whatever came out, ceasefire and then ceasefire violation, it all shows that there are some questions which are still not answered. What were the compulsions or the weaknesses that we accepted the call of DGMO to approve that, okay, we are asking for stopping of army action and stopping of firing. I think this will only come up probably as the time will pass, maybe tomorrow. As earlier there was confusion whether there was a violation or not violation, though reporters on the ground reported that there were drones, there were blasts, but ultimately, thankfully, Foreign Secretary came and he gave the clear picture that there was violation, and he even said that understanding arrived by the DGMO has been violated.
I'm also thinking about the global peacemaker to be, or someone who wants to be the global peacemaker. Abhijit, unka kya hoga? Donald Trump ko kaun brief karega? Kya bola jayega? And what will Trump do? Will he first delete his tweet or put out a clarification on the ceasefire being violated, or do something else?
I don't know, but I suspect it's going to be the telephonic version of what he did to Zelensky. We all know what happened to Zelensky, right, at the White House. We haven't forgotten that. Look, I think he's a great guy, but he doesn't, you don't want to get on the bad side of him. He's not nice when you get on the bad side of him. He finished off he's finished off one Canadian Prime Minister and one prospective Canadian Prime Minister's career. He destroyed Justin Trudeau, and then Pierre Poilievre, who was leading 20 points ahead, he destroyed his career also. So now what ends up happening is that you have a Prime Minister and an army chief that have gone and lied to him. Now, like you said, Pranesh, America's look after its interests, like we have to look after our interests. That's perfectly fine. Now, the question now is that when you conditioned the ceasefire on America agreeing to the provisional $1 billion tranche of IMF loans, with the remaining $1.3 billion being provisional on compliance, what happens to that money? You know, when Marco Rubio negotiated that deal, I hope he realizes maybe he's not going to give the remaining $1.3 billion, but he's just been conned out of $1 billion. How do you think that's going to go down? I don't know. I don't know how they play. From what I understand, they don't have many equities in Islamabad.
Right.
That said, we need to remember there is a very strong nuclear non-proliferation lobby in DC, which has always acted as a kind of lobby group for Pakistan. Because every time Pakistan says, you know, oh, we're going to accidentally on purpose give a nuclear bomb to some terror group and things like that, these guys will concoct a complete new strategic case for why America should keep
Well, Abhijit, Shashi Tharoor has tweeted, and I think he has summed up the situation very well. Pradeep Datta, Shashi Tharoor has tweeted, he says, uski fitrat hai mukar jaane ki, uske waade pe yaqeen kaise karun?
Yes, absolutely right. In fact, that's what we have been discussing about, because this is not first time they've done. We already have got the experience what really happened when Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee went to Lahore with a bus, and what really happened after that. It was a Kargil invasion. We have seen that how Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he went to greet Nawaz Sharif in Islamabad. What really happened? There was a Pathankot attack. This is not first time that they have backstabbed India. They had been doing it in the past. But what actually Americans have also to understand, that they have betrayed Americans also. Because everybody remembers that how in late 70s and 80s, when Americans took help of Pakistan when they were having a war in Afghanistan, USSR, and that time they wanted General Zia's help so that they can strike a deal with all those Gulbuddin Hikmatyar and Ahmad Shah Massoud. They wanted them to be on their side, and they provided them weapon. Most of the weapon was in fact diverted towards Kashmir Valley. That was the time when actually they stoked fire on this side of the border. And I think Americans should understand, because they say that they are part of fighting a war against terror. Basically, they are not fighting a war against terror. They are aiding, abetting and sponsoring terror. I think this is a high time for the Americans to open their eyes. In fact, just 2 days back,
opening the eye is not going to be enough, you know, because that hasn't helped anyone. And like Abhijit was saying that, you know, it could be one angry phone call, you know, the bell treatment that Zelensky got at the Oval Office, you know, something along those lines to Shahbaz Sharif or Munir. But will that help? You know, Captain Bansal, if the Americans have some shame or, you know, any sense of pride after what the Pakistanis have done to Donald Trump, they should at the very least freeze the IMF aid, take back Pakistani, you know, the weapons that they have given to the Pakistanis, including the F-16s.
See, the present administration in US is not a political administration. It's actually a business venture. So if tomorrow Pakistanis say, yes, we will import so many Pakistani goods, they'll probably still condone them what they are doing. So in today's transactional government that the United States has, you cannot expect anything. One day he'll criticize Zelensky, the other day he'll be kowtowing to Zelensky, one day he'll praise Putin, the next day he'll criticize him. So with that sort of an administration in US, I won't trust the US administration one bit, whether they have something. If they have something, they'll probably act. Let's see what they do. But this US administration does not inspire any confidence in my mind. So let's wait and watch what happens, because I'm only hoping that whatever is happening is undermining Asim Munir's authority, which is a feasibility, though howsoever remote it may be. But that would be a better feasibility from our points of view than if it is seen that it is a deliberate attempt by Asim Munir.
So, Captain Bansal, if that is the case, then, you know, let Donald Trump play the grand mediator, let him play Pope, while, you know, Modi takes care of our interest. Hit Pakistan hard and hit it in a way that Pakistan does not repeat this again. We've run out of time. I thank all of you gentlemen for joining us. Pradeep, thanks for your inputs. Let's see how this unfolds. Viewers, stay with Times Now.